There are spaces you enter willingly, believing you are safe, while they slowly take apart your mind piece by piece. You clicked this video expecting physical locations, war zones, collapsing economies, dangerous neighborhoods. You are looking at the wrong map. The common belief is that ruin comes from a sudden, violent external disaster, a market crash, a surprise enemy, a physical threat that forces you to your knees. That belief is false. Ruin is an infection. It spreads quietly. It is contracted in the psychological environments you refuse to leave, the places you walk into every single day that are carefully designed to crush your ambition, your clarity, and your power. Machiavelli warned rulers about the hidden traps of human association. Today I am going to expose the invisible rooms that are slowly tearing you apart. But pay very close attention to the second place. It is the one you are probably sitting in right now. Place 1. The Martyr's Court. The echo chamber of grievance. Where do you go when you fail? When the plan collapses, when you are ignored, when the market turns against you and your pride is wounded, you go to the people who understand, the ones who nod, the ones who pour the drinks and tell you the game was rigged from the beginning. Welcome to the first place of ruin, the Martyr's Court. This is an environment built completely on the currency of shared complaints, a friend group, a specific online community, a workplace break room. It is a space where everyone is bleeding, but no one is searching for a bandage. They are only searching for an audience. It feels like therapy. It feels like deep validation. It is actually psychological weakening. Machiavelli observed in his discourses on Livy that human nature strongly leans toward blaming fortune. Men usually blame fortune for the evils they suffer and praise their own wisdom for their victories. When you surround yourself with people who validate your excuses, your ambition slowly starves to death. The Martyr's Court is extremely comfortable. In this room, your failure is never your fault. It is the economy. It is the algorithm. It is your childhood. It is the corrupt system. But comfort is a sedative. Look at the tragic fall of Piero Soderini, the statesman of Florence during Machiavelli's time. Soderini was a decent man, a fair man. He surrounded himself with moralists and idealists. When the ruthless Medici family approached the gates of Florence with an army, Soderini did not respond with the necessary aggression. He sat in his circle of high-minded peers, complaining about the cruelty of the world, waiting for his natural goodness to protect him. It did not. He was removed, exiled, and his republic was dismantled. He died in a sanctuary of his own creation, a victim of his complete refusal to adapt to a harsh reality. When you enter the Martyr's Court, you surrender your control. You become a passive observer of your own tragedy. You stop asking, "How do I use this failure?" and start asking, "Who can I blame for this pain?" The people in this room do not truly want you to win. If you succeed, you become a threat. You prove that the cage door was unlocked the entire time. You destroy their entire identity, which is built on the foundation of being oppressed. They will resent you for your escape. So they keep you calm with sympathy. Sympathy is a drug that bypasses your logical mind. It imitates the feeling of love, but it is a leash. Get out of the circle of victims. If the people around you are not actively fighting in the arena, you should not be discussing the battle with them. The moment you catch yourself seeking a pat on the back for a failure, recognize the trap. Swallow the loss. Accept it. Does it hurt? Good, it should. Pain is the only teacher that does not lie. Do not let the Martyr's Court numb the lesson. But if the first place destroys you with sympathy, the next place destroys you with something even more intoxicating, something you actively chase. Place 2, the arena of unearned status, the Court of Flattery. We arrive at the second place, the most dangerous trap ever created by human vanity, the Court of Flattery. Machiavelli dedicated a direct and brutal chapter of The Prince to this exact threat. Courts are always full of flatterers, he warned. Men are so happily absorbed in their own affairs and fall into such self-deception that it is difficult for them not to become victims of this plague. You hear the word flattery and picture ancient kings with servants bowing at their feet. You think you are immune because you do not wear a crown. You are not immune. For you, the Court of Flattery is not a physical palace. It is the environment that praises your potential instead of your execution. It is the parents who tell you that you are a genius just for passing a basic test. It is the social media followers who like your announcement of a huge project you have not even started. It is the friends who say your terrible business idea is brilliant because they are too afraid to hurt your feelings. Why will this ruin you? Because dopamine is blind. Your brain cannot tell the difference between the chemical reward of talking about a victory and the reward of actually achieving it. When you stay in a space that gives you applause for simply existing, you lose the hunger required to become dangerous. You become soft, comfortable, predictable. Consider the history of King Perseus of Macedon. He inherited a large empire and a strong army, but he surrounded himself with sycophants, men who told him his strategies were perfect, that the Roman Republic was weak, that his legacy was guaranteed by the gods. When he finally faced the Romans at the Battle of Pydna, the brutal and unforgiving reality of war shattered his fragile ego. His army was destroyed in a single hour. He ran from the battlefield crying, blaming everyone except himself. He was not ruined by Roman swords alone. He was ruined by the applause of his own court long before the battle began. If you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. But if you are the most praised person in the room, you are in a slaughterhouse. They are feeding your ego for the kill. Why do you stay? Why do you accept the poison? Because you crave validation, because you lack inner certainty. You want someone to look at you and say you are on the right path, that you are special. Stop asking the world for permission to be great. When people constantly tell you how great you are, your psychological defenses drop. You stop checking your blind spots. You stop working hard. You begin to believe your own myth. And the moment you believe your own myth, reality will strike you with the force of a freight train. You must deliberately seek out rooms where you are nothing, where your past achievements mean nothing, where the standards are high and the criticism is precise. Machiavelli advised the wise leader to choose intelligent advisors and give them the freedom to speak the truth, but only when asked. Control the feedback loop. Demand brutal honesty, but carefully decide who is allowed to give it. Run from unearned praise. It is slow poison. It covers your mind in sweetness, while it rots your ambition from the inside. But what happens when you avoid the flatterers? What happens when you decide to get serious, to focus, to finally build your empire? You often step directly into the third trap, a place that looks like progress but is actually a prison. Place 3, the Sanctuary of Hypotheticals, the paralysis room. Where does potential truly die? It does not die on the battlefield. It does not die in dramatic public failure. It dies in the war room. Welcome to the Sanctuary of Hypotheticals. This is the place of endless preparation. The whiteboard filled with perfect strategies. The hard drive loaded with courses you have not completed. The notebooks filled with brilliant ideas waiting for the perfect moment. The glow of the screen at 3 a.m. as you research your competition for the 100th time. You tell yourself you are researching. You tell yourself you are improving. You call it strategy. You are lying. You are hiding. Machiavelli hated hesitation. He argued that fortune is like a violent river. When it is calm, you build barriers. But when the flood arrives, you must act with strength and speed. The man who sits on the riverbank, endlessly calculating the exact speed of the water, will drown in his own numbers. In the Sanctuary of Hypotheticals, everything feels safe. Why? Because nothing is real. You cannot be judged on a prototype that never launches. You cannot be rejected by the market if you never release the product. You cannot lose money if you just keep analyzing charts forever. Perfectionism is not excellence. It is often hidden fear. You are afraid of the ugly, imperfect reality of being a beginner. You want to skip the embarrassment of being bad and jump straight to mastery. Look at the Italian mercenary captains of the 15th century, the condottieri. Some of them spent their entire lives studying Roman formations. They calculated the perfect angle of the sun. They read ancient texts about war logistics. Then they stepped onto the muddy battlefield against brutal enemies who simply wanted to survive. The scholars were slaughtered. Theory collapses the moment it gets punched in the face. When you spend too much time in the Sanctuary of Hypotheticals, you develop dangerous arrogance. You think you understand the game because you memorized the rule book. But reading the menu does not mean you have tasted the food. The map is not the territory. The market does not care about your flawless plan. The world does not care about your perfect spreadsheet. It cares about execution. It cares about what you can bring into reality. To escape this room, embrace action. Launch before you feel fully ready. Speak before the sentence is perfectly shaped. Execute while the plan is only 70% complete. Machiavelli said it clearly. It is better to be bold than overly cautious. Momentum forgives mistakes. Paralysis forgives nothing. Stop planning your life endlessly. Break the glass. Step into the arena. The cuts and bruises you receive in the real world will teach you more in 5 minutes than 5 years of theory. Once you leave the planning stage and start taking action, you will face resistance. In your exhaustion, you will search for a place to rest. This leads to the fourth destructive environment. Place 4, the Hall of False Equivalencies, the comparison trap. This place will not stop your movement. It will twist your direction. The Hall of False Equivalencies is the modern digital world, the endless scroll, the environment where you compare your raw, unedited reality to someone else's carefully edited highlights. But it goes deeper than simple envy. Machiavelli understood the danger of copying the surface appearance of other rulers. He warned that men quickly desire the wealth and status of others and blindly copy their methods without understanding the context behind their success. You look at a 20-year-old millionaire online. You see the cars, you see the lifestyle, you do not see the leverage, you do not see wealthy parents, you do not see hidden failures, you do not see the unethical behavior that may have built that path. In the Hall of False Equivalencies, you are tricked into running a race you never chose on a track you were never prepared for. Envy steals strategy. When you act from envy, you stop playing your own game. You abandon your natural advantages to copy someone else. This makes you predictable. You become a second-rate version of your competitor, and a second-rate version is always destroyed by the original. Think of the ancient city of Carthage. They were masters of the sea. Their navy was unmatched. Their wealth flowed from trade. But when they fought Rome, a powerful land empire, they allowed envy of Roman dominance to pull them into massive land wars. They tried to out-Rome Rome. They abandoned their greatest strength to fight in the enemy's preferred arena. Carthage was burned to the ground, its fields covered with salt. When you let comparison control your actions, you destroy your own foundation. You begin making decisions based on what looks impressive to people you do not even respect. You buy things to show a status you have not earned. You change your business model because a trend is popular, abandoning the core strength that made you powerful. This is strategic suicide. How do you survive this hall? You must develop focused vision. You must see the success of others as information, not as a judgment of your value. When you see someone winning, study the principles, not the appearance. Extract the lesson, not the lifestyle. Then return to your own battlefield and execute with discipline. Strip away the emotion. Break down their victory calmly and coldly. What did they do right? What systems can you copy? What weaknesses are they hiding behind the shine? Turn their success into your lesson book. Stop comparing your chapter 1 to their chapter 20. Machiavelli taught that a prince must depend on his own weapons, not the weapons of others. Your timeline belongs to you. Your tools belong to you. The exact moment you stop looking to the side is the moment you become truly dangerous. You are starting to see the structure of your own self-sabotage. These 6 places, the Martyr's Court, the Court of Flattery, the Sanctuary of Hypotheticals, the Hall of False Equivalencies, the Chamber of Indebtedness, and the Altar of Public Opinion. They do not look like traps when you walk into them. They look like safety. They look like friendship. They look like preparation. They look like ambition. That is exactly why they are deadly. The devil does not arrive wearing a red cape with horns and a pitchfork. He arrives dressed as everything you ever desired. He arrives disguised as the easiest path. You must understand that your mind is land under constant attack. Every environment you step into is trying to occupy your thoughts. They want your attention. They want your energy. They want your full compliance. To become mentally untouchable, you must turn yourself into a hostile place for weakness. You must look at the people around you, the content you constantly consume, the physical and digital spaces you live in, and ask one brutal question. Is this sharpening my blade, or is it making my edge dull? If it is dulling your edge, you must remove it without apology, without delay. It will hurt. You will lose friends. You will be called cold. You will be accused of acting superior. Let them speak. The sheep always complain when the wolf leaves the herd. They do not understand that you are not leaving to be proud. You are leaving to survive. You survived the first rooms. You cut off the dead weight. You stopped begging for sympathy. You stopped listening to the flatterers. You escaped endless planning. You shattered the mirror of envy. You think you are free. You are not. Because the next place does not attack your ego. It attacks your gratitude. Place 5, the Chamber of Indebtedness, the favor trap. Where do you go when you want a shortcut? When you are exhausted from the grind? When a door is closed and someone offers you a key? No strings attached. Just a favor between friends. Just a mentor helping a protege, just an investor who believes in you. Welcome to the Chamber of Indebtedness. Most people think destruction comes from enemies. They scan the distance looking for a knife. But the most fatal wounds do not come from a blade. They come from a gift. Machiavelli studied the rules of human obligation with sharp clarity. He understood that men are tied to you by the benefits they receive. But he also knew the dark opposite of that rule. The moment you receive a benefit, you are wearing a collar. In Renaissance Italy, power was not only held by men with swords, it was controlled by men with accounts and ledgers. Look at Cosimo de' Medici. He did not take Florence with an army, he took it with a bank. He was intelligent. He appeared humble. He rode a mule instead of a horse. He dressed modestly. But behind closed doors he was quietly lending huge amounts of money to nobles, merchants, and rising politicians. He handed out favors easily. He rescued failing businesses. He paid the debts of powerful men. He was called the father of the fatherland. But the father owned the children. The moment someone tried to oppose Cosimo politically, he did not send killers. He simply demanded repayment immediately in full. Men who believed they were independent giants were reduced to beggars overnight. They were destroyed quietly by the same generosity they once praised. When you enter the Chamber of Indebtedness, you trade your future freedom for present comfort. You take the job from the toxic uncle because it pays well. You accept the free vacation from the manipulative partner. You take funding from the investor who expects silent loyalty. You tell yourself it is only business. You tell yourself you are using them. You are not using them. They are purchasing shares in your soul. What happens when you want to leave the relationship? What happens when you want to move your business in a direction the investor hates? What happens when you finally stand up to the toxic family member? They pull the chain. After everything I did for you, I made you. You owe me. Guilt is one of the most paralyzing mental states a human can experience. It turns your own morality into a weapon against you. You will remain in abusive relationships, dead partnerships, and draining environments for years simply because your inner ledger says you are in debt. The people who offer you easy shortcuts do not want to see you fly. They want to cut your wings and keep you in a golden cage so you can perform whenever they demand it. Nothing is free. The universe works on strict exchange. If you do not pay with money, you pay with freedom. If you do not pay with effort, you pay with dignity. How do you leave this chamber? You must become extreme about your independence. You must treat every unearned gift as a possible Trojan horse. When someone offers you a favor that sounds too perfect, refuse it. Pay the market price. Accept the delay. Take the stairs instead of the elevator they offer. If you must accept help, define the repayment clearly and immediately. Put it in writing. Clear the debt as fast as possible. Machiavelli advised that a ruler should be the one giving favors, not receiving them. You must be the creditor, not the debtor. Buy your freedom with cash, sweat, or blood, but never buy it with obligation. A person who owes nothing fears no one, but there is one final place. If you escape debt, clear your accounts and build on your own terms, you will step onto the biggest stage. And this is where most powerful people fall. Place 6. The altar of public opinion. The transparency trap. You built the fortress. You are disciplined. You are controlled. But you are still human. Deep inside your primitive brain is a tribal instinct that demands acceptance. You want the village to like you. You want the crowd to understand your vision. You want to be seen as the good person. Welcome to the altar of public opinion. This is the modern addiction to being fully seen. It is the urge to explain your boundaries, the need to apologize when someone misunderstands you, the desire to appear relatable. It is one of the most efficient self-destruction machines ever created. Machiavelli held a deep and unapologetic distrust of the unpredictable nature of the masses. He wrote in The Prince that the nature of people is unstable. It is easy to persuade them, but hard to keep them persuaded. The crowd is not rational. The crowd is a beast driven by changing emotions. Look at Girolamo Savonarola. In the late 15th century, Savonarola, a Dominican friar, rose to power in Florence. He did not use wealth like the Medici. He used the power of public emotion. He delivered fiery sermons against luxury, corruption, and sin. He connected with the public's anger. He made them feel morally superior. The people loved him. They cheered as he organized the bonfire of the vanities, where citizens threw art, books, and expensive clothing into a giant fire in the city square. Savonarola rode the wave of the crowd's righteousness. He believed he was untouchable because the people supported him. He forgot that the beast is always hungry. When Florence faced economic problems and the Pope excommunicated him, the political mood changed. The same public that once cried at his sermons grew bored. They felt restricted. They wanted a new show. They turned on him instantly. The same citizens who praised him stormed his convent. They dragged him into the same plaza. They hanged him and burned him. The public will build your pedestal and then use that wood to build your execution platform. When you live on the altar of public opinion, you give control of your emotional state to strangers who do not even understand themselves. Why are you apologizing for your ambition? Why are you writing long explanations about your life choices to people who spend 0 seconds building their own lives? To be relatable is to be average. To be fully understood by the masses is to operate at the lowest level. You think transparency makes you real? It does not. Transparency makes you a target. When you explain yourself, you are asking for approval. When you seek mass validation, you signal that their judgment matters more than your conviction. The moment you react to a comment, rumor, or misunderstanding, the crowd senses weakness. They test your limits. They demand more apologies. They push you to shrink so their mediocrity feels comfortable. Machiavelli advised that a ruler should not fear being called cruel if it keeps order. Sometimes a few strong actions create more mercy than endless softness that allows chaos. Apply this to your mind. You must accept being the villain in someone else's story. You must accept being called cold or arrogant. When you remove a toxic person from your life, they will tell others you are heartless. Let them speak. Do not correct the story. When you raise your prices and lose cheap clients, they will call you greedy. Let them speak. When you go silent to build, they will say you changed. Let them speak. Silence in front of misunderstanding is psychological strength. Weak people rush to defend their name. Strong people know that reputation is only a shadow. The body creating the shadow is what matters. Step down from the altar. Stop sacrificing yourself for applause. Stop proving your goodness to a world that respects only power. You must accept the cold. You must become comfortable with being misunderstood. When you stop caring how the many see you, you focus your power for the few who matter. You become invisible to the masses and powerful in your own reality. Look at the map again. The Martyr's Court, the Court of Flattery, the Sanctuary of Hypotheticals, the Hall of False Equivalencies, the Chamber of Indebtedness, the Altar of Public Opinion. 6 places designed to steal your agency. 6 psychological slaughterhouses built to keep you calm, afraid, and dependent. You have been walking in and out of them for years. You thought your exhaustion was physical. You thought your anxiety was chemical. You thought your slow progress was lack of talent. It was none of that. It was your location. You were trying to grow seeds in poisoned ground. You cannot outwork a toxic environment. You cannot meditate your way out of manipulation. You cannot use positive words to escape a room built to crush you. The only answer is removal. Machiavelli did not teach survival in storms. He taught how to become the storm. To become the storm, you must control the spaces you enter. Treat your attention like a sovereign nation. Guard the borders. If a friend group requires complaining to fit in, leave. If an environment praises your potential but demands no action, burn the bridge. If a situation demands your dignity as payment, walk away empty-handed. If the crowd demands apology for your success, give them silence. This level of ruthlessness will scare people who once knew you. They will say you lost yourself. They will say you changed. They are reacting to losing access to you. Your availability was their entertainment. Your struggle was their comfort. Your smallness protected their fragile ego. When you leave these 6 places, you will feel deep emptiness. The noise stops. The drama disappears. The constant pressure to please fades away. You are left alone. And that isolation is the laboratory of greatness. In that silence, you finally hear your own voice. You finally feel the heavy weight of your potential. You stop reacting to traps. You start building your own system. You move from pawn on the board to the hand moving the pieces. You clicked looking for outside threats. You wanted a list of external dangers. But real Machiavellian power demands a harsh mirror. The 6 places are not buildings. They do not exist on a map. They exist inside your decisions. You built the Martyr's Court each time you blamed the world. You built the Court of Flattery each time you chased easy praise. You built the altar of public opinion each time you checked if they approved. The world did not imprison you. You gave them the design of your mind and asked them to build the cage. You are the architect of your downfall. That means you are also the architect of your empire. You have the power to destroy the